Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, joined by two of the best in the business in breaking down the injuries and news, the implications related. Justin Fan from Underdog Fantasy, Mike Gallagher from Established Run. Justin, how are you on this fine Friday?
Doing great. Good to be back with you guys, and we're back in LA. So yeah,
Gallagher, you get your hike in today? You feeling
I
refreshed, ready to
I
go?
did, man. Yeah, it's not snowing here in Arizona. It never does, but it's snowing in my office. No I'm kidding. Yeah, feeling pretty good. Not as good as you, man. Congrats to you. Nice little 50K day for you yesterday. Well done,
Thank
sir.
you.
congrats.
Thank
Way
you.
to go, man.
Needed it badly. After some best ball runouts, needed it quite badly. So that was good. Thank you to you for the Jason Tatum flag plant.
Yep,
It was
yep.
very, very helpful. Thank you to the Clippers for literally nothing.
Yep.
I thought I had a chance at thinking a lot of stuff,
Oh,
and the Clippers were just enough for me to get second in that tournament. But whew, that was ugly. 11 games on the slate today. Lots of injury information as always. Gallagher noted there's 20 questionable tags, so we'll get
that's light,
through.
man. Light work.
We'll get through as much as we can here. Let's start with the Chicago Bulls. Alex Caruso and Javonte Green questionable. It seems like we just cannot seem to get the Bulls back into the rotation pieces healthy for any consistent period of time. They play Philadelphia tonight. How likely do you think it is that we see either of Caruso or Javonte Green tonight? Justin, I'll start with you.
There was a report from one of the Bulls beat writers that Javonte was still out. We didn't run with it just because Javonte is still questionable, the injury report. But just putting that out there as something we're monitoring. We saw on Wednesday Andre Drummond get a DNP-CD, and Billy Donovan said it was a matchup decision versus the Nets. And we're seeing this matchup today against the Sixers with probably PJ Tucker, I would guess, gets to start at center again with Maxey, that same starting lineup, and then Montrezl Harrell on the second unit. So would think Drummond would get back in the rotation today in this spot. Caruso's been in and out so many times with these issues. I think he has a good chance to miss again. And we saw Ayo Dosunmu get in there, play 34 minutes. Kobe White got all the way up to 28, which I don't think is a normal thing. We saw this 3-game stretch recently when Caruso was out, and Kobe averaged 18 minutes a game. And I think he got up to 28 mostly because Drummond was out of the rotation. Yep. All those 3 games that Kobe was averaging 18 minutes a game, Drummond played all 3 of those games, averaged 18 minutes a game there. So I wouldn't expect, if you're just looking at the box score from Wednesday, to expect Kobe to see those types of minutes. I would expect him, more towards the lower 20s. They still have Goran Dragic in the mix as well. So long story short, I think Caruso has a good chance to miss, and the Sumu elevates his minutes floor, and I would expect Drummond to get back in the rotation tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Caruso rolled his ankle pretty good and got ruled out pretty quick. Usually you see guys kind of play through those ankle tweaks when they can, because they just couldn't put it back out there. So, yeah, he's been running really bad. So, yeah, definitely expecting Ayo to start regardless in a really tough matchup. I'm curious to see matchup-wise if they put Patrick Williams on Harden. There's been a handful of spots where Paul has been the primary ball handler defender. Kevin Porter Jr. Was really kind of the one that caught my eye, and a couple others that I noted in matchups. Not to give them all away, but I think Ayo starts is the sacrificial lamb against a lot of James Harden. We'll talk about the Sixers soon, but yeah, Javon, and as you mentioned, yeah, they wanted to match up with Ben Simmons, and that's when they kind of shifted and went him at the center. So it makes sense.
While we're here, let's just talk about the 76ers. Joel Embiid is out again. We saw them start with PJ Tucker at the center spot last game, in a game that we thought, they against Indiana, a game that we thought they might need more size because of Miles Turner. They chose the PJ Tucker route. They didn't even choose Paul Reed for any backup minutes and rotation minutes. So Vooch is a bigger threat than Miles Turner from a post-up perspective. So I don't know if that changes the equation at all on this. Gallagher, what's your insight into how you expect Philadelphia's rotation to shake out in this matchup against the Bulls?
Yeah, so I kind of think they just eat it and deal with Vooch and honestly put Tobias on him. We've seen every once in a while Tobias will guard bigger guys, and he's a pretty strong guy in the post. So that sets up very well for Vooch. PJ Tucker would get the DeMar DeRozan matchup. So I think that makes sense to me. Van, do you? And just to mention too, he cited the Pacers' speed. They played really fast, a lot of build movement. Obviously, Halliburton switching with the ball screen stuff makes a lot of sense. So that was kind of the reasoning why Doc went that way. Didn't really mention to up Tyrese Maxey's minutes. So I think similarly, you want to be a little bit more switchable with the DeMar stuff, with all that. So I think it makes sense to start small, and then you're just eating whatever Vooch has to put on you.
Yeah, I would expect a similar rotation tonight. And the tell last game, and I lowered Paul Reed's minutes significantly after, was Doc went out of his way to talk about how Montrezl Harrell and James Harden have this chemistry, and how Harden likes playing with Harrell, just given their history playing together in the past. So, I mean, I could have seen this coming, just given the pregame comments from Doc. So I think we're going to in a similar spot where PJ Tucker gets a nominal start, but Montrezl plays a ton off the bench. And with PJ, what I'm watching is he's getting very banged up right now. He's dealing with a multitude of injuries. He had that like dead hand issue that he was talking about earlier, and then he had this like hamstring quad injury on Wednesday. He went to the locker room in the first quarter, limped to the locker room, after he made a drive under the basket. And yeah, I mean, he was on the stationary bike like 5 minutes later, came back, but he's like, the injuries are starting to pile up for PJ Tucker to where, limiting and curbing his minutes a little bit makes some sense. And that just adds a little bit to the Montrezl Harrell appeal to me here. We saw Tyrese Maxey get all the way up to 37 minutes in his third game back. Was supposed to be on a bit of a minutes cap beforehand, according to Doc, but clearly not the case. Looks like he's completely full. We talked about him. He's going to start when he's back to full, and that's going to be the case. He's too good to come off the bench. So yeah, like I said, I think we see a similar type rotation tonight, with Tucker getting the nominal start and Montrezl playing a lot off the bench.
Yeah, Tucker had a shoulder neck stinger too to throw in the mix like a week and a half ago. So he is just taking on the take it on the chin, but not literally, but basically everywhere else.
Yeah, it's always uncomfortable to try to invest in this Philadelphia. I know, like Paul Reed was 10% owned in the main GPP on DK last slate, and like Harrell, while there's a lot of good positive comments and he played well last game, I also think that like those minutes could go away at any time. Like I also think they could end up leaning into stuff where like George Niang plays a little bit of center and small ball stuff, and they try to attack the drop coverage of Vooch by just running relentless pick and pops over and over. So there's just a lot of fragility in the back end of this center rotation, but Harrell looks to be the guy who's stepped ahead for now.
And look, Doc is notoriously stubborn in his ways. He'll play whoever he wants, whether it's at the expense of wins and losses. And I think a lot of the times when we're projecting these rotations, and an example is the three of us talking, we're talking like from a high level what we think should happen, what's rational, what's reasonable, and what makes sense in this matchup. A lot of these times these coaches are just stubborn. They just want to do things and play the plays that they play. And Paul Reed DNP-CD is a perfect example of that. I think it was a matchup last time on Wednesday where it made sense for him to play, just given how he matched up and how to exploit the other team's defense. But Doc is Doc, and he's just like, he'll do things his way, and if they lose because of it, it's what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
And he said Montrezl Harrell played one of the best games he's ever seen him play too. So you got to think he'd be hard pressed to go away from that.
Harrell's minutes sound fairly solid in this one. Let's move to Portland. Jeremy Grant and Gary Payton, both questionable on the Portland injury report. Nurk, I believe, is still listed as probable. Justin, the Trailblazers starting to be a team that is giving a lot of these tags each and every day. So what are your read on the Portland situation tonight?
Yeah, we thought we were clear on Miami, but they suddenly added Caleb Martin like late in the day after our initial injury report. I was like praising their injury report, but obviously they had to add a wrinkle to the mix. But yeah, Jeremy Grant's interesting. He suffered that quad injury on Wednesday, was questionable to return. He suffered it during the third quarter and then returned midway through the fourth quarter. Given how he played through it, and given how I don't have a ton of respect for these Q tags for the Blazers, I would lean towards him playing, though I don't have a ton of confidence in that. What is interesting to me is we saw Trenton Watford get a DNP-CD on Wednesday, and Shaedon Sharpe, after his minutes cratered against the Hornets on the 26th, he played 7 minutes. He got all the way up to 28. So we're seeing some movement here in the Blazers rotation on the back end, where it's interesting to see, if Jeremy Grant did miss a week or so ago, I would say Trenton Watford would make the most sense as the fill-in starter, but it's been Jabari Walker who's been the sub for Jeremy Grant as of late, and who's been playing over Trenton Watford as of late. So interested to hear your guys' takes on who you think would start if Grant ends up missing. I think GP2 has a really good chance of missing as well. He was out for an extended period of time, ankle injury like right away in his first game back. I think he has a good chance of missing. And then, Anthony Simons plus 8% usage rate differential with Jeremy Grant off the court this season. So he should see a good bump if Grant misses. But yeah, back to the original question. Like, if Grant ends up missing, do you think it's Jabari Walker? Do you think it's Trenton Watford? Who do you think steps into the starting lineup here?
Well, I think if Gary Payton 2 is in, which his ankle tweak wasn't too bad, but just off that much time and then tweaking his ankle the first game, I think it made sense to sit him. But I think he's got a chance to play. If he does, I think he starts, because we're going to see if Grant can play. And just to give some background on this, suffered the quad injury and they got killed after that, and he was able to return, as you mentioned. So I think he's got a good chance to play. Quad contusion, not something that usually keeps guys out so long, but it does. I always talk about the Cody Zeller thing a couple years ago where he missed like a month. But yes, because Grant would be picking up the Halliburton matchup. So that's something that's very important to replace. So GP2, problem solved. If not, then you're talking about Josh Hart picking it up, and I think it would be Walker, but it might be Keon, and they might put Keon in that role. They use Keon as on ball for secondary stuff sometimes. So yeah, don't have a great read, but I feel pretty confident if GP2's in, he would start.
Interesting. And then obviously, if we're talking about GP2 out and Jeremy Grant out, I assume that means you would feel a lot better about the Tyrese Halliburton matchup in that instance, Gallagher.
100%. Yeah, I was thinking about firing off the Halliburton stuff. I was like, let me wait for Grant. So,
okay. All right, let's move to Brooklyn, where TJ Warren is questionable. Just with Brooklyn's depth and with some of the injury histories of these guys, Seth Curry, TJ Warren, Joe Harris, I just sort of lean that when it's just one guy on the injury report anytime, that it seems like it's a potential, just like, hey, take it easy. Let's move on. What are your thoughts, Justin, here on TJ Warren with the, I believe it's a ribs issue?
Yeah, it's a rib contusion. And I would lean towards exactly what you're saying, Dink. And he was in quite a bit of pain after it happened on Wednesday. Collided with Derrick Jones Jr. on a screen, went straight to the locker room. I think trainers were following him, didn't return. So yeah, just given the depth they have, you have a guy like Yuta Watanabe barely playing as of late. I think he has a good chance of missing in this one. And we've seen TJ Warren's minutes really get up there. He played 20 plus minutes in the 6 straight games before Wednesday. So would think Watanabe picks up a lot of those minutes. If TJ Warren ends up missing, then we saw Seth Curry on Wednesday get all the way up to 27 minutes off the bench, played 22 and 20 minutes, I believe, in the 2 games before. So his minutes should stay fairly high as well. If TJ Warren is out, would expect low to mid 20s for him. But Watanabe should be the biggest beneficiary in terms of minutes. And obviously Warren's a big usage guy in that second unit as well. I just want to mention that.
Yeah, took a shot in an illegal screen, and as you mentioned, was in a lot of pain after the game. Vaughn said he was still kind of dealing with it. Not a back-to-back here. I don't think it's a serious thing, but just sit him out. It's TJ Warren. Don't play him less than 100%. So yeah, pretty much echo everything you said.
And we'll see. Justin noting the usage thing there. I think that's important with the context of Seth Curry's minutes increasing there. He's one of those guys that can pick up some of that usage in TJ Warren's role. I also think it's, the guy who shot 6 or 7 from 3. Any of these guys, hot hand situations with Joe Harris, Seth Curry, TJ Warren, when they have these three guys on the bench that can all at times kind of get hot, I think someone can run with those minutes at any time. They're obviously going to play the main four starters. Simmons has some sort of minutes cap that they're adhering to that we don't know that's public, but they're going to let those four main guys, Kyrie, Clax, Royce, and KD get up there whenever they can. So it's just like, who is the fifth guy that's going to run on the bench unit? And if Warren does miss, I think there's a decent chance that that there's room for either Curry, Watanabe, or Harris to run up there into the upper 20s tonight, potentially. Okay, let's go to the New Orleans Pelicans. On the other side, Willie Hernan-Gomez and Larry Nance, questionable. Obviously, backup center depth here for a team that has a lot of big man depth normally, but no Zion Williamson, he's out a while. No Brandon Ingram, he's out. If you take out Larry Nance Jr. and Willie Hernan-Gomez, okay, you still have Jackson Hayes behind Jonas Valanciunas that you can play there, but all of a sudden the fours start to get a little bit thinner. So this is a team that has some of the best depth in the league. But these two questionable tags are starting to stack up injuries in the front court. Justin, do you have any read here on Willie Hernan-Gomez and or Larry Nance?
Yeah, I think Nance has a good chance of returning tonight. We got some quotes from him this morning, said he's feeling much better, said he'll see how he feels after warming up this afternoon. So it sounds like he's headed towards a game time decision. But just the optimism around his quotes makes me think like he has a good chance of returning tonight off that shoulder injury. He was dealing with like neck injury before. So it sounds like he's got a good shot. Don't really have a big read on Willie Hernan-Gomez. But like you said, Valanciunas, Hayes are their healthy bigs right now. And then I think Nance has a good chance of being there. Assuming
if Nance is back, Hernan-Gomez doesn't need to play. So
yeah, so I'm just asking you guys, that was what I was getting into. So assuming all four bigs are available, would you give rotation minutes to Willie Hernan-Gomez or Jackson Hayes?
I would give them to Hayes before Willie Hernan-Gomez, especially in this matchup. We just saw Chicago not play the big bulky center, those backup center minutes against Brooklyn. I would expect the same type of decision here, where if you're going to play the bigs, they got to be mobile. They got to be able to switch on the perimeter a little bit. They're not the typical back to the basket offensive rebounders would be my guess. So I would have their pecking order for minutes tonight behind Joe Val, as Larry Nance, strong number one, Jackson Hayes, decent number two, and Willie Hernan-Gomez unlikely to play in the rotation if everybody's healthy.
Yeah, as you kind of alluded to there, he was called a neck spasm injury when he was missing time. Then he got upgraded to a shoulder soreness thing. So the listing isn't as severe. We always get concerned about getting listed the other way. Like Michael Porter Jr. was listed with a heel contusion, then listed with a strain, and then he misses a lot of time. So it's definitely trending in the right direction for Nance, and that's really bad news for Valanciunas for the reasons you kind of alluded to there. You want to be small, you want to be switchable. Nance is going to get switched on to KD a lot, so a lot hinges on Valanciunas, who could be in a great matchup. But if Nance is there, they may really go away from him.
All right. Let's move to Cleveland, where Darius Garland is questionable. Donovan Mitchell is going to miss this game due to rest. Any read on Darius Garland? Starters jerseys, Cleveland. Mike, we'll start with you. And God, I hope you got it, because fans ready to roast if you don't.
Well, they're not. He's at shoot around. I don't have any visual evidence of this though. So, but it sounds like he's gonna go. He has his thumb wrapped. He went through 2-on-2 a couple days ago, including Ricky Rubio, who's trending up too. So looks like he's going to have his thumb wrapped. Shooting hand, little concern there to see how he performs, but pretty good matchup. I think that this Cavs team could put some points on the board against Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and then Nuggets defense. We haven't got the Nuggets injury report yet. We might get that in 8 minutes, but I feel pretty good about him playing. Obviously, Karis LeVert as I've been saying, Karis LeVert has been in Mitchell's role, and then Mitchell moved into Garland's role. So now he's back into Mitchell's role. So we'd expect a lot of minutes there. Probably seeing Okoro stick. A better matchup for him. We talked about this a lot, and we were kind of on point, and why we hit it under is because you don't need the wing defense or the on-ball defense much against the Suns. This time, you need a little bit more. We'll see if Jamal Murray is going to play. He sounds he's going to play, but something to note there. But I think he's pretty good to go. Should note that some quotes on getting Mobley going offensively, so a little bit of squeaky wheel narrative, and potentially a good spot there. We haven't got the Nuggets yet, but it should be good. And hopefully we have pictures of the starters jerseys by the time the show's over. I could bring them up.
Any notes there, Justin, on Darius Garland?
No, I mean the spot's great for Garland on paper. I just have a little bit of concern with that thumb. It's been wrapped. He went through portions of shoot around on Wednesday with it wrapped. Did some 2-on-2. Went through shoot around this morning with it wrapped. So just slightly concerned about that affecting his shot. But yeah, great spot otherwise. And Karis LeVert, the minutes have been awesome in his last 3 starts, 37, 38, and 39. Should see a similar huge workload tonight, and usage lower 20s I think is pretty reasonable without Donovan Mitchell. But
and probably against the Murray matchup too, so it's kind of a sneaky good spot for LeVert.
Agreed, and echo what Mike said about Evan Mobley. I think this is a good spot for him as well against Aaron Gordon.
All right, Minnesota, Naz Reid and Bryn Forbes both listed as questionable on the injury report. Any intuition on Naz Reid's availability, Justin?
No strong read here. Mike, do you got anything on Naz Reid?
No. Well, nothing really there, but I do want to note, and it sounded like he was like kind of getting close to playing from an injury that's more of a day-to-day thing, so I don't lean in. But funny note, we always make fun of coaches who, like Doc Rivers is the poster child when you don't even know if your players are playing. And pre-game, Finch found out from the reporters that Bryn Forbes wasn't going to be able to play. So it's just hilarious, but it makes sense though, right? Like these guys have other things to do. They're not like, they don't care about Bryn Forbes being available. It's not like really part of their game plan, but you just love to hear the coaches who don't even know what guys they have available.
Yeah, Naz tried to warm up and go on Wednesday, but he wasn't there. He wasn't there physically, and he couldn't give it a go. Yeah. So sounds like he was like at least trying to play. Went through pregame warmups and stuff on Wednesday.
And should note too, they did tweak the rotation. Finch kind of talked about it, and then went double big. Running a little bit more Luka Garza 2 games ago, and they bring Taurean Prince in. So Prince will kind of go away from that, but Garza looks to be ahead of Nate Knight. Curious to see if that changes against the Clippers, who we think we know who's going to play. But Garza looks to be he would be in the mix. Didn't really run overlap with Gobert, who's starting to play a little bit better here. But that's kind of where we're at. But I think Naz is going to play.
Yeah, good to see Garza carving out a little bit of a role for himself. He was such a good college player, and one of those guys that there were concerns about how he translates to the NBA. On the Clippers side, let's dig in there because we got that news right before we went live. One of the reasons we were running a little bit behind, had to make sure Justin and the team got all the Clippers stuff out there. Kawhi questionable for potential load management. Paul George questionable as well. John Wall not listed, of course. Possible more shenanigans to follow. Nick Batum ruled out. Justin, I'll start with you. What's your read on the Clippers? And the guys, they didn't even play the second half last night. They just were like, "Hey, we're done with this game. We're moving onto Minnesota." What are your thoughts tonight?
Yeah, so Tyler was asked multiple times about Kawhi, whether he was ready to play back-to-backs. He was asked pre-game and post-game, and then Kawhi was asked post-game too. The comments from both lead me to believe that he won't play tonight. They're talking about that they're hopeful at some point during the season he'll be able to play in back-to-backs, and he's talking about wanting to play 30 minutes in both legs of back-to-backs. Obviously, he didn't play that much last night, which kind of opens up the possibility that he might play tonight, but I just don't think they were anticipating him being able to be available on both legs this back-to-back. So I will lean Kawhi being out, even though he didn't play that much last night. And then I will lean Paul George being in because he was asked, I believe, about how his injury was doing. He said he's fine. So this is also a spot where they got embarrassed last night. Their starters did, where I think they're going to play tonight and have something to prove. And I don't think you got the second half off last night. Like there's no reason for you not playing the second leg back to back. So I think we'll see a relatively full team tonight with Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, PG, Marcus Morris, and Zubac as the starters. After getting embarrassed, I think these guys have to save face and come back and show something tonight.
2 things to add. One, man, Kevin Harlan was drilling the PG minutes limit. And as a matter of fact, I heard him say it the first time. I was like jamming Paul George unders. So shout out to Kevin Harlan. Love to see it. But and secondly, so I think he's going to have a cap on him. Rotation was a little bit shorter too, so I think he had 14 first half minutes if I remember. Well, yeah, it's right in front of my screen. He didn't play in the second half. He had 14. So yeah, and then secondly, going Windhorse here, 2-game road trip, and they call up Brandon Boston and Jason Preston. Why would the Clippers do that, right? Like, why would you call up 2 G League guys when you've got most of your team, quote unquote, healthy besides the Kawhi and Paul George? And like, it just seems like they would call these guys up for the 2-game roadie, knowing that they're going to be expecting guys to sit one or both. So I was honestly surprised to see the Q tags and only 2 of them. But so I'm generally lead with you, but I have my doubts about Paul George. We saw him second half wrapping his quad or wrapping his hamstring up. He was just done. They weren't going to put him back in regardless. So definitely some concerns. I can't believe he played yesterday, man. Like, I almost broke out the Homer Bush's background because I was so sure Paul George wasn't going to play given all the evidence around it. But so that's my bad on there. I'm glad it worked out for Dink though.
Chris Smith noted, Law Murray, who covers the Clippers, commented about PG not looking right. I saw terrible. I saw that tweet in those comments as well, talking about PG settling, not getting to the lane, not looking like he had the normal lift, I think were some of the comments that were made there. So that coupled with the minutes limit stuff makes me pretty concerned on the Clippers side of things. We'll note that historically, this is a matchup that they love to go small. If they are without PG and Kawhi, might be a lot tougher to do that type of stuff because you just don't have as many offensive initiators and creators. You kind of need a little bit more from some Subats. So it's a messy spot to project. We'll continue to follow it as the night goes on. As you saw yesterday, though, they will have random news bits that come out late, like deciding John Wall wasn't going to play last night instead of tonight and stuff. So keep it posted on the Clippers. You have to follow it all the way up until lock.
It's wild how much these coaches are botching these back-to-backs, because we saw 2 of those instances come up where in LA, it made so much sense for PG to sit yesterday and Kawhi to play, and then to flop them in the second leg of the back-to-back. And then it made a lot of sense for Houston to sit Eric Gordon in the second leg of the back-to-back because they got Jayshawn Tate back. Like, these coaches are just botching these back-to-back spots. And it just doesn't really make any sense to me at all.
Yeah. The Eric Gordon one, I think, I honestly think it has to do with the comments that he made earlier in the week about the team showing no improvement. And then I'm sure that there was some sort of feeling of like, hey, dude, you're making these comments and you don't even play in these game situations. Like I feel like there's something there because it makes no sense any other way with Tate coming back. And Tate ended up playing pretty well down the stretch as well. Okay, let's keep it moving.
Just peruse that latest injury report, by the way. It looks clean. Doesn't look like anything's new on that.
Okay, cool.
230, yeah.
Caleb Martin questionable for Miami. You mentioned, Justin, the late Q ad for Miami here. Any read on Caleb Martin?
No, I mean he's been playing through these tags. I will mention though that it looks like that injury is definitely still bothering him. We've seen the minutes like pretty capped. I think he played like the first 6 minutes of the first half of last game, and then didn't come back for the rest of the half. So his minutes are clearly limited. I think he's still feeling it, and I think he'll play, but I'd expect like similarly low minutes in this one for Caleb.
Yeah, and they can get away going small for sure. So I think we could see like a sneaky Gabe Vincent spot, a little bit more Max Strus if he's limited or can't go. So wouldn't necessarily be a Highsmith spot because you've got really no big wings to worry about on the other side with Phoenix. So if he can't go, I'd expect them to play small. Certainly comfortable putting Kyle Lowry on Chris Paul, who is really the only guy you got to worry about. Suns are down quite bad right now.
Yeah, I got to mention too, Oladipo's minutes have been really getting up there as of late. 35, 30, and 32 in his last 3. He's been one of the beneficiaries of them going smaller.
Keep him pumping.
He might start. Right?
Keep pumping Oladipo minutes. The more Oladipo minutes, the better for all of my long-term futures here.
Yep.
I cannot believe that they keep giving him. It's just a lot. You see that minus column. It's a lot of minus on the Victor Oladipo side when you scroll through the box scores. He's just not the same player that he used to be, and he still is trying to play like the player that he used to be. All right, let's move to some of the doubtfuls and outs. We covered Philadelphia. Let's move to Charlotte, where Gordon Hayward is doubtful. They're going to be without Kelly Oubre for a while. There was a minutes limit, it seemed like, on Cody Martin, and they don't have G League guys available today. The Hornets, man, we took an under on Plumlee last game at 9.5 rebounds, and they're down 30 in the fourth, and he checks back in with like 7 minutes left. And I'm just like, okay, I get it, Steve. You're just going to play the guys no matter what. Like, you don't care anymore. You don't have guys that you think can play at the NBA level, so you're just going to play the guys no matter what. Without Hayward, without Oubre, things are getting really tight there. You saw big minutes for Jalen McDaniels. What's your inclination on how Charlotte continues to adapt here, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, we saw 16 first half minutes for Jalen McDaniels, 16 first half minutes for PJ Washington. Cody Martin was like 10.5 or something. So I would expect something similar. Just they're going to continue to ramp up Cody Martin slowly. And yeah, I mean, we've seen like, was it Brooklyn? One of those games not too long ago where they were getting killed by 20 plus, and we saw like LaMelo at 37 minutes and something.
Yeah.
So like he just.
I mean, he got 35 in this one. It's like they're just like, okay, it's basically like it's like AAU stuff, I guess. Like guys are just going to get out there to get their numbers and move on.
It's not like he doesn't have bodies. They have like 18 backup bigs behind Mason Plumlee, and they have like Dennis Jr.'s back with McGowan's and Dennis, and Teo Maladon, I think, so like still he's options. He's just riding these guys to the ground. But
it's just like there's only a certain threshold of bad basketball that I can take, and it's right at this level that it's our starters. Anything below this, and I just can't handle it. I'm moving on. But yeah, it's been wild. All right, let's move to San Antonio.
They actually don't have their G League guys are down, unless they called them up and I missed it. They were down earlier today, so yeah, we may see 45 minutes out of LaMelo when they're down 35 to the Bucks today. Yeah, one thing I want to add though too, Steve Clifford, man, this guy is a creature of habit with how he handles injuries. Although one thing was different. So when LaMelo and Hayward returned, they got the midday Q upgrade the day of. Remember that? Cody Martin didn't get the midday Q upgrade, but we had the same thing. Oh, we're gonna put him on a minutes limit. We're gonna run him in short stints and longer second half rotation. So I would expect Cody to get pretty close to full. Matchup is sneaky important. I think they would need him to guard Drew a little bit. So curious to see how small they would go. 2 through 4. Obviously, you put Plumlee. Plumlee picked up a different coaching staff, but Plumlee picked up the matchup against Giannis last year. It was kind of so. It didn't pop off on him, but just a couple of matchups that I wanted to add.
All right, let's get to San Antonio. My guy Devin Vassell, going to be out a long time. Very tough sad. Mm-hmm. Very, very sad. First big hit.
This is always the risk of drafting Spurs guys at the start of the season. Whether it's like shutdown because of tanking or like I'm having some knee issues. We're going after Victor Wembanyama. Let's get this procedure done mid-season type of thing. It was always a risk with these guys,
Was the risk. Sadly, the first stain on my guy's resume this year. Let's talk about how things are going to look without them. Keita Bates-Diop is probable here. Josh Richardson is also listed on the injury report as well. He popped off last game in a chalky way in the absence of Devin Vassell, and he's had a lot of playmaking responsibilities when Devin Vassell has missed. Trey Jones has also benefited in these spots in the past. It's not quite G League time for the Spurs. Blake Wesley is on assignment, for example. What's the read on how things are going to continue to progress for the Spurs without Devin Vassell? Justin, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think Romeo Langford will get the start tonight for Vassell, and we've seen Keldon really be the biggest beneficiary in terms of usage with Vassell sideline plus 3% differential this season. And just love this spot. I mean, you look at any sample full season, last 10 games, last 15 games, the Pistons have been one of the worst defenses in the league. So really prime spot for Keldon to pop off tonight. My trepidation with these other guys is they just have a little bit of depth and the minutes floor is a little shaky. So you look at guys like Trey Jones and Jakob Poeltl, like their spots a lot tonight against this Pistons defense without, Devin Vassell. But can we really trust that they won't play mid-20s minutes? Because I think that possibility exists, and we've seen that from those guys as of late. Jakob Poeltl's minutes have been getting up there a little bit, but still a little shaky. But I think Josh Richardson is an injury that's kind of sneaky important too, because it thins them out even further.
Yep.
On that, wing,
especially ball handlers
exactly.
as well.
So we probably see a lot more Malachi Branham in that case if Josh Richardson has to miss. I think he's already in line to pick up some extra work with Vassell out. So I think he's one guy to keep an eye on. But yeah, I want to get there on Poeltl and Trey Jones in this spot, but it's a little tougher just with Pop shenanigans and their minutes floors.
Yeah, one thing to add, I'm not going to cite stats on this one, so you don't need to put earmuffs on Dink. But Blake Wesley is with the Austin Spurs. They're in DC for a Wednesday-Friday slate. So if you see Blake Wesley get called up, that would be, to me, a pretty clear indication that Richardson's not going to play.
Yeah.
So just something to look at there. Thank you. No stats.
Good
you don't need
good shout without G League stats. That's great.
I know.
Yeah, and
thank God.
Yeah, it should mention. Royce really bad. Romeo really bad foul trouble in this one. I thought he was going to play more. I rogued some overs on his points, rebounds, and thankfully got it with 13 minutes. So
wow,
I'm crushing Romeo. I swear Romeo has been like my go-to over here. Matchup that they need him. They need a little on-ball defense. We could talk about. Well, we don't have any Detroit stuff. Just to hit that quick. Running pure, Killian Hayes, perfect on his potential assist. It was 13-13. Ball handling was really strong, 8 and change minutes. So Romeo would pick up probably that matchup to maybe open up a little bit more for Jaden Ivey. So this is as Fan mentioned, what a spot to hit. 29th in defense, 30th in defense. Gross offense, but there's definitely a lot of upside. Keldon could really go nuts in this one, so I love Keldon again today.
The game of the night for DFS players. And Mike Gallagher and Romeo Langford, a love story as old as time.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Bradley Beal out for the Wizards. We've seen Bradley Beal in and out of the lineup quite a bit of late. We've seen the lineup stabilize a little bit more and the rotation tighten a bit. Justin, what's your inkling on how the Wizards handle the absence of Bradley Beal tonight?
I think we need to pair this naturally with the team on the other side, which is OKC Thunder down Jalen Williams. So I think my takeaway from Jalen Williams' injury, which we can kind of get into now, is they're basically going to trot out Darius Bazley and Mike Muscala at center, which means nom time for Kristaps Porzingis and Daniel Gafford. So this double big lineup for the Wizards has really been working well for them, and I expect it to continue in the near future. Because there's really no reason to turn away with him, just given how better they've played overall, especially defensively. So I think if there's a starting lineup change tonight and you want someone to guard SGA, it's probably going to be at the expense of Corey Kispert. Maybe you throw in Denny Avdija for Corey Kispert, but I feel pretty strongly they're going to stick with this double big lineup, which should be great for Kristaps and Gafford in particular. Would think Lou Dort gets the Kuzma assignment, which even funnels even more usage to KP. So KP in particular is one guy tonight that should absolutely go off without Beal in this matchup.
Yeah. Fan, you want to write my matchups columns? That's exactly what I wrote. Yeah, exactly. I think it's tough to go away from that matchup with the Kispert lineup that's been pretty successful. They lost to the Bucks, but they've been playing pretty well. So yeah, SGA roasted Danny, scored 42 in like mid-30s minutes. So SGA matchups cover boy. He may have another 40 ball on him. This team just doesn't match up with him at all with the way they play defense, and Gafford rim presence isn't a concern to me. SGA's 5 to 10 foot game is just too strong. So I almost cover Boyd Porzingis because this is like a nutty of nut spot. DFS stack them up, SGA and KP, and just enjoy the fantasy goodies. And who do you think starts? I think Bazley. I think we start Bazley.
We put Muscala in there, but I could see Bazley as well.
Yeah.
He's got some spot starts in the past, and the bigs for the Wizards are a little stretchy, so I get it. I would lean Muscala, but I think it's close.
Yeah, I'm leaning Bazley just for the verticality reasons. They like Muscala as like their post defender.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that him against space, and then you could kind of space the other way on Gafford. That kind of makes sense too. So it's
Mhm.
definitely close. I just think maybe like, oh yeah, we haven't been playing Basie at all. We really need you. We're out of spots. Let's just throw you out there to start the game.
It does seem like the Thunder are, as they've been the last few years, are a team that essentially gives the younger players like kind of full workloads when they play, and nothing when they don't, and then the veterans kind of just always have the same sort of like teens workload. So I could see something like that where it's like, okay, Baisley, now's your shot, and Muscala is just always kind of getting his role because they know what they get from him.
Yeah, you
And
keep that continuity with that second unit where Muscala just stays in his role.
Yeah.
Let's mention also that Eugene Omoyuri is still down with the earmuffs in Mexico City. And they're in Mexico City, so probably a little unlikely that he would be called up. So there's a chance. We always are concerned like that Baisley chalk game when he came off the bench behind Jalen Williams in his first start. That's J. Will, not fans guy Jalen Williams. So if Omoyuri is not there, like they almost have to play Muscala and Baisley.
Yeah, they are a team though that calls up their G League guys late in the day. So like that, like when they do call them back or recall them, it's always late in the day. So we'll know for sure on that. We think that's likely the case, but they often list early in the day and then later call them up. So it is something.
There's Basie chalk. What can go wrong?
Yeah, of course. Especially after last night when like 270 was winning GPPs. I'm sure people will love to fire into Darius Baisley chalk tonight. Let's go to the Lakers. Troy Brown, Austin Reeves, Lonnie Walker, Damian Jones, all on the injury report. A lot of out tags there from the Lakers with this wing depth. Troy Brown Jr. got downgraded to out. Austin Reeves and Lonnie Walker are out. They're obviously without Anthony Davis already. This is a team that didn't have a lot of wing depth to start. What are things going to look like? Are we just going to see a bunch of guards out there tonight, Fan?
I'm counting 10 available players for them tonight. So we're expecting that starting lineup to be Schroeder, Beverly, LeBron, JTA, and Thomas Bryant. And their bench right now is Westbrook, Kendrick Nunn, Max Christie, Sterling Brown, who they just signed to a 10-day like half an hour ago, and Wenyen Gabriel. So, man, I mean,
and Damian Jones if he's available.
Yeah, Damian Jones if he's available, right? He's questionable. But he's behind Gabriel, so I think he would just more be an emergency guy, or like he wouldn't really play too much, anyways. But yeah, I mean, they're so thinned out. I mean, this could be a really big LeBron spot, just because they're going to ask him to do so much. They lose so much wing depth, and Schroeder, I think in particular, has been playing a lot better as of late. So those are the two that stand out for me. But man, they're so thin. Like Sterling Brown's going to have to play tonight, I would think.
Well, unless they want to go to a bunch of like 3-guard lineups,
I know,
because really, if you look at the wings, it's LeBron and it's Max Christie, and Max Christie is a little bit more guardy than wing, but we'll give him the wing benefit for the benefit of this conversation, and then JTA, and like and you got to cover 2 spots there at the 3 and the 4. So yeah, you could see huge minutes there. I think they'll have to consider some of these 3-guard lineups to get them through different spots. You see they're willing to have Russ play up positionally in terms of defensively a lot and just spread out the floor. I think you could see stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of the guys who do the little things that have been helping the Lakers play well of late are going to be missing tonight. And that'll be interesting to see how that affects some of the secondary counting stats for LeBron, like the assist rate and different things like that, because they are a team that does not have much shooting, and they lost the little bit of shooting that they have. So Gallagher, what are your thoughts on the Lakers tonight?
First, 100% agree on the lineup. I think JTA starts at the 4. Matchup important note too. They've got a pretty big front court in John Collins and Onyeka Okongwu, who also played a ton in this matchup. We just saw this matchup like a week and a half ago, whatever it was. He played 43 freaking minutes for Okongwu.
Yeah, Collins fouled out early in that game.
Yeah,
that's part.
Collins fouled out, and no Hunter in that game as well.
Right,
so this was also the game LeBron went ham. Almost
birthday
had a 50-point
game.
triple-double. Yeah, birthday game, 47, 10, and 9, if I believe. He did it against DeJounte Murray. He'll be doing it this time against DeAndre Hunter on the other side. So, but yeah, I'm pretty much with you on everything Fan said. And upset. Well, hiking is big time minus EV because I was out and I was like, yo, there's no chance Troy Brown's playing. and then I get home and then gets ruled out. We could have made more bets, but at least we got the Russ in.
Let's move to the Bucks on the probable tags. They get their own category because whenever the Bucks are listing guys probable, our ears perk up. Tonight, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, George Hill, Marshawn Beauchamp, and Jrue Holiday. Hill and Holiday illness-related. Giannis left knee soreness, another eyebrow raiser. Beauchamp with a thigh contusion. Justin, any read on the Bucks probable tags tonight?
I haven't been hurt enough this season to be jaded and to be like, expecting these guys to be late scratch or anything. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Now they don't play until Monday. So expecting all these probable guys to go. Joe Ingles is back as well. The biggest question here is, does Jrue Holiday start? Because we saw him last game that he came back, played 19 minutes off the bench, and Budenholzer said afterwards that was the plan for him to play around 20 minutes on the first leg, sit out the second leg. And we saw Javon Carter get the start for him on Tuesday. So that's the biggest question for me. I think Drew's going to be limited regardless. If he starts or comes off the bench, probably mid-20s is a reasonable expectation just as they ramp him up. They have some guard depth with Javon Carter, some guard depth with George Hill likely coming back as well to where they don't really need to push Jrue Holiday. So, I think expecting Grayson, Connaughton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez as the other starters for now.
Yeah, he went. I expect him to start. We saw this once before, back on November 18th, and he came off the bench. We saw him sit out the whole first quarter, and then he kind of had normal rotations. So it was a little bit different. He subbed in the first quarter, but he did start the next game. Minutes weren't quite full. He got to 28 in a somewhat close game against the Blazers. So probably looking at like 30 here. But it's the they might just who cares? It's the Hornets. We should be able to beat them without anybody. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone sits. We just, as we say, we treat these Bucks probable tags like questionable tags.
Over under 10.5 dunks for Giannis tonight. If I set that as the line against the Charlotte Hornets, would you guys dare? Wow. Would you guys dare bet the under? If I set it at 10.5,
10.5. That's a lot of dunks.
That's aggressive.
I'll take the under. Mason Plumlee will be on him. He'll maybe keep him away from the basket a little bit.
A team that is actively trying to play in transition against the Bucks is just asking for punishment from Giannis tonight. The last notes we have are the back-to-backs, the Clippers and the Nuggets, which I think we talked through during the course of the show. We certainly touched on the Clippers. On the Nuggets side of things, Jamal Murray said he expects to play. So after only playing low 20s minutes last night, it seems like all the Nuggets guys should be okay tonight. Mike, any read there on the Nuggets side of things?
Yeah, I want to note that Mike Malone said that Jokic and Aaron Gordon are playing through injuries. Jokic, it's just sort of a bumps and bruises thing, but Aaron Gordon's shoulder is bothering him. So we'll see if this limits him, keeps him out, or something along those lines. I would not be surprised to see someone. Murray, I think Murray getting the probable tag will be a good thing. We're going to see something on there, whether it's probable, questionable, or out. But yeah, so these guys are playing through stuff, but coming off a big win, didn't have to up their minutes up too much last night, so probably good to go. And a game I'm pretty excited for. I'm sure you guys are too.
All right, that will do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, support the people who are supporting us. This show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts for money running in addition to many formats of NFL contests, especially those playoff contests that I love to be drafting for. They're still running for huge prizes. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tools to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at UnderdogFantasy.com. Tonight, behind the paywall, myself and Gary Hartman will be walking you through the DFS slates, all 11 games, 5 o'clock Eastern. Join us with your subscription behind the paywall at establishedrun.com. If you're uninterested in giving us your hard-earned dollars, we ask for your hard-earned clicks. Subscribe to the YouTube page, get notifications whenever we go live, and of course, smash that like button so you can help feed the algorithm. Feed the algorithm, help us feed our families. Feed yourselves with these DFS and prop streets. Have a good weekend, everybody. Nom, 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 nom.